Tom, if it's okay, let's begin with the cabinet shuffle today. Really, two people who probably most Canadians don't know, so we can't take this as too big a deal. But what happened?
Well, what happened was Philomena Tassi, who had been the Labour minister in the previous Trudeau government, and then got a big promotion. She was procurement minister. She's going to be replaced by Helena Jacek because it's a very interesting thing, and it shows a lot of heart and sensitivity on the part of Trudeau. She went to Trudeau and said, look, my husband, she talked about it publicly. She wrote about it, so we can mention it. Her husband's had strokes, and she says the care is just too much. She can't keep traveling across the country. So Trudeau essentially switched files between the two of them. The person who will be taking over from Philomena Tassi is a medical doctor, an economist, and she holds an MBA, and she was a former senior minister, health minister, amongst other things, in the Ontario government. So she's got tons of experience. She's going to be able to take over this file. And I just found it on a human level, when you look at politics all the time as just being a place where people get crushed up and thrown out, I thought Trudeau did very well today. He talked, you could sense that on a human level, he had really done the right thing. And of course, Philomena Tassi was really thankful. So it was a good moment. And it also shows that Trudeau was able to bring in the right person to the right job, because I think that it's a job that requires someone with a deep understanding of government.
Now, we knew it was going to be a minor cabinet shuffle, but nonetheless, I think I expected a little bit more than that. How about you?
Oh, absolutely. We even talked about it. We touched on it briefly yesterday. There are places that are just crying out for new blood. I mean, the transport department is a shambles. The immigration department is worse than that. There have been super problems at Global Affairs over the past couple of months. So sure, but interestingly enough, Trudeau tipped his hand on that as well. And one of the first questions from the journalists at the press conference was about all the other problems you've got. Like, why don't you do something about transport? It was actually named. And he goes, well, I can't start making changes because I just formed that government less than a year ago. So what he's saying is he's worried about the image that it would project of his choices, even if it's quite obvious that Canada needs new people in some of these key jobs.
Okay, I want to move on from that because that's really, as I said, not the big story today. We're still talking about some of the things going on the campaign trail. Tom, I don't know if you heard that clip of Marwa Risky talking about, the fact that security is now going to be important. There was a break in at Enrico Cicconi's office.
And she got death threats.
Yeah, it's 3 days in. This is already beginning. I mean, obviously, we're all hoping this doesn't continue. But what do you think? Is this enough to ramp security up?
Well, they're going to have to do something. I know it's very nerve-wracking for volunteers. During the 2015 campaign, for example, my campaign office got ransacked and somebody smashed a window and fired off fire extinguishers through the breach in the window, hoping to shut down our computers or maybe make it impossible for us to use the information we had in the campaign. It didn't affect us, by the way, but it was a mess, and it took a couple of days to clean the whole thing up. So violence in politics is not new, but what is new is the social media that amplify these things and give people license. When you've got the type of goon that you had in Alberta over the weekend behaving like that with Chrystia Freeland, a lot of people say, well, he's sort of famous now. He's been on TV. Maybe I should do something really stupid. In the case of Marwa Risky, I haven't heard the quote, the clip that you have, but I have read in the Journal de Montréal article her statements. And she's essentially saying, she says, the police were with me for one day. My knees are knocking. She's 8 months pregnant, by the way. And it's a fact in her case. It's not the only reason why she should be protected. All people in politics who dedicate their lives to serving other Quebecers and Canadians, they shouldn't have to worry for their lives. And that's where we are right now. I don't want to sound too dramatic, but this is really a new era that we're entering now. I look back on when I got elected in politics for the first time close to 30 years ago. And, of course, there have always been crazy people out there saying bad things. But this type of generalized system where people pick up messages and conspiracy theories and the feeling that they can act on their own. I don't know if you saw it, but a couple of weeks ago, it was fascinating. On the weekend, a bunch of conspiracy theorists got together and tried to arrest police officers in Peterborough, Ontario. And the tape was fascinating because they say, you're part of the COVID crime, and I'm here to perform a citizen's arrest. So, I mean, they were knuckle draggers, but they had picked this up online, and they had convinced themselves that they had the power to do that. Do you remember at the end of the trucker convoy when people started saying, well, if enough people write to the Governor General, she has to change the government? And this is just the type of madness that gets passed around online, that passes for fact, And people don't check anything because they've done their research. They read it from somebody else who's online. And that's the world we live in, folks. It's not fun, and it's going to get tougher before it gets better.
But then, okay, yes, the problem's gotten worse, but clearly, as you point out, the problem's been around for a long time. Why has nothing been done about it prior to this? The security problem, that being.
Well, we've got huge security problems now, but there are not enough police to protect. Look, we've got 5 parties out there, and as soon as the Liberals finish getting their candidates, they'll have 125 candidates too. So just in this election, to, include the minor parties, you're going to wind up with 600-700 candidates. So you can't protect them all.
Yeah.
But Mara Oriski, she's actually a sitting member of the National Assembly. Sure, the Assembly's been dissolved, but she still has that status until somebody replaces her or until she's reelected.
So, Tom, here is that clip, by the way, from Marwa.
Sure.
Very quickly, it escalated. The man started calling to my local police and saying that, hey, on this street, which was my street where I live, you should go right now. A murder just happened, and you're going to find the body of Mrs. Risky.
That's the kind of thing you're already Look, Tom,
so awful.
I know this has been around for a while. It's obviously in focus now, more so, I guess, since the Freedom Convoy. But I wonder, maybe it's time that the laws regarding who can be charged and who can't be charged with these things needs to change.
Yeah, and one of the things that's interesting in the case of Mara Oriski, this fellow who hails from Sorel, he's been arrested, he's been arraigned, but he's been released on his own recognizance with a certain number of conditions. But really, he should be out there during the election campaign? What if he does something crazy now? Then the whole system, this brings all of our system of justice into disrepute. So we've got to keep an eye on him and all of the other threats out there. But they're enhancing. It's beyond the capacity of the police to to take care of all of this at the same time. But I think that society as a whole has to come down very hard on this type of behavior and say it's just not part of it. But again, it's being fomented and nourished and fed online, and people are reading the stuff of other people. And the more attention you pay to it, the more people will think, well, this is my 15 minutes of fame. As Andy Warhol predicted, everybody will get 15 minutes of fame. Well, they want their 15 minutes. And
very troubling.
They're going to get it. And this is the terrible part. We're stuck between a rock and a hard place when we're doing media on this stuff.
Right.
Do we talk about this guy at all? Of course you've got to talk about this guy, but you don't have to name him. I have the name of the guy in Alberta. I've done any number of interviews on this since the weekend on television and on radio in English and in French. I've never mentioned the guy's name once. I don't want to give him that satisfaction.
Good. Yeah, that's good.
All right, let's move on to something else. Look, every day, more promises. You particularly thought the one made by Dominic Anglade today with respect to parents being able to get their kids involved in sporting activities was a pretty big one.
I think so. But again, we have to make the same distinction we were making yesterday, because the poor Liberals, they can't even get their candidates lined up, as I just indicated. This is an unbelievable situation. It's a complete breakdown of that party on an organizational level. With regard to Anglade herself, she's clearly got some really smart researchers who know policy, the stuff that she rolls out. She herself, I think, has just been really strong and foursquare. So we're going to see how she's able to roll the rest of it out. This was a good one. Basically, these are the types of courses like international schools and sports programs. So this can cost parents as much as $5,000 a year. So this is supposed to be the public school system. These are international school programs, the International Baccalaureate within your local public high school for top performing students, so that they don't all drift off to the private schools. And it's a good idea, but public schools are supposed to be free. And that's the basic principle here. So I think that Anglade is onto something. By the way, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention something very interesting that happened today. Pierre Fitzgibbon, who I keep questioning why he's still there after all the times that he's broken the ethics laws, out of the blue, he winds up in a series of major news stories that are coming out about the LNG project on the Saguenay River. Now, this is a massive play to take natural gas from Western Canada, liquefy it, put it in these massive LNG tankers, and bring it down the majestic Saguenay River. It's been refused federally and provincially, but Trudeau got a question on it out of the blue. I was surprised during his press conference today when he was announcing that minor cabinet shuffle. He got a question on this. So it's out there quite a bit, and it turns out that Legault and his minister, Fitzgibbon, are saying on background, according to these reports, that they're not opposed to the project anymore, and they could let it go through if they get reelected. Now, this is the type of thing that people will sit up and pay attention to, because this thing is not popular across Quebec with anybody who understands the environment. And I've also told on background that Legault has prepared a massive policy book on environment that he's planning on bringing forward. Well, if he's got a minister behind the scenes telling everybody, just wait till we get reelected, we'll approve this thing. He's going to have a lot of explaining to do. This thing is breaking fast this afternoon, especially on the French side, and we'll see whether it's got legs as a story.
Didn't Trudeau say a couple of weeks ago when the German chancellor was here that, this idea of an LNG project didn't make sense from a business perspective?
Yeah, but the people who actually are in business, as opposed to people who are in government, realize that there is a massive market for this stuff in Europe. As the Russians today, Aaron, turned off the taps completely on Nord Stream 1. They had reduced it down to 20%. Today they turned off the taps, saying they need a few days to do some technical work. It's a game. They're using energy as a political tool, as a lot of people, by the way, had predicted they would one day. So now Canada is looking at its massive reserves, its trillions, that's really the number, trillions of cubic meters of natural gas, and saying, we could put this into tankers and make a killing on it. So there are huge environmental considerations involved, and that's why both the federal and the provincial analyses said no to this thing. But it doesn't mean it can't come back, because it's essentially a political decision, not a bureaucratic decision at the end of the day.
Extenuating circumstances. Tom, thank you very much.
That was the argument. Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Thanks, Tom.